Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the second talk in our This is STEM livestream series. We are delighted you could join us and hope you're looking forward to the talk this morning. My name is Connor, and I work with Science Foundation Ireland on a programme called Smart Futures. For those who might not know about Smart Futures or Science Foundation Ireland, I will give you a brief introduction before we kick off our talk. Science Foundation Ireland is the Irish Government's largest competitive funder of scientific research in Ireland. In addition to funding excellent research and innovation, Science Foundation Ireland promotes and supports the education in and engagement with STEM. We promote an awareness and understanding of the value of STEM to society. Smart Futures is a program of activity designed for secondary school students like yourselves and is managed by SFI. Smart Futures is all about providing information to students, teachers, guidance counsellors, and parents about STEM careers. Choosing subjects to study and courses to a third level can be tricky, and figuring out what career you want can be overwhelming. Smart Futures provides you the opportunity to discover what types of STEM careers are available, and there are many, and hear from people who work in STEM-related jobs in Ireland. To continue to connect with students during the current restrictions, we are hosting a live stream here on our YouTube channel on the last week of each month. Each month, we will discuss one of the 4 pillars of STEM. We began with engineering in February, continuing with science this month, technology in April, and concluding with maths in May. Today, to help us explore a career in science, we are extremely grateful to be joined by Ciaran Egan. Ciaran works with Abbott as Professional Development Programme graduate working as a QC project manager in Abbott Nutritional Division in Cootehill. The QC project team manage quality projects for the site with a focus on lab testing equipment and testing methods. If you have any questions, please pop them in the chat box. There will be time allocated for a Q&A session at the end. Before we wrap up the session, I will let you know about an opportunity to win a pair of Apple AirPods. So enough from me. I'm delighted to introduce Ciaran to talk about his career in science.
Hey folks, how's things? Feels strange presenting virtually, but here we are. My name is Ciaran Egan, as Connor said. I'm hoping you can all see my screen clearly. So today I'll give you a bit of a background about myself, where I'm from, what I do for a living, and my experience in STEM, in education, etc. So I am originally from a place called Rush in North County Dublin. I am, as Connor said, a second year on the Professional Development Programme with Abbott, the PDP programme. It is a 3-year programme where I do 3 different rotations in 3 different parts of the country. Well, actually, sorry, 2 different parts of the country in 3 different divisions in Abbott and 3 different roles. So lots of variation. My first year was spent in Clonmel in County Tipperary, in Abbott's Vascular division as an engineer. And as Connor said, this year I am in Cootehill in County Cavan, working in Abbott's nutrition side of the business as the QC project manager or lab project manager. I have presented before on STEM. I hope I don't bore you too much today. I'll only be talking for about 20 minutes or so. And then there is some time for questions at the end. But if you have any questions during the presentation, just throw them in the chat box and we'll get to them all at the end. In my free time, in college, I played a bit of ultimate frisbee, which was a great experience. Would highly recommend it to anyone who sees it in college. It really opened a lot of doors for me. Got to travel around Europe playing frisbee. Got to make some great friends, and really enjoyable time. Other than that, I've played a bit of hurling throughout my years for St. Maur's GAA club. But as I get older and as my knees start to go, I mostly just play golf these days. Well, in lockdown, really, I kind of just play a lot of PlayStation, to be perfectly honest. So, onto my journey in STEM. In the Leaving Cert, my subjects were chemistry, biology, and maths. They were my main STEM subjects. I was really interested in biology. I kind of studied quite hard at biology, gave it a lot of time. I thought, you know what, I'm going to go to college and I'll try to follow up in biology, and that'll be what I'll do. For no other reason than I enjoyed it in the Leaving Cert. So studied hard and got a B1 in biology, which I'm not sure how that translates to the current H system, which I still can't understand. And I got a D2 in chemistry. I really kind of let chemistry slip, but I almost borderline failed chemistry. But listen, I said I was focusing on biology. You know, all that mattered really was that I did well in biology. So filling out the CAO, my top 3 choices were all science related. So general science courses in Trinity, UCD and DCU. And after that, I went into engineering courses and I put down some engineering courses. And then I had some English courses then as well as my bottom few on my CAO. But I ended up getting my third choice, which was general science and DCU. And in the general science course in first year, it's really good because you get a really broad understanding of all three sciences. So I got to do chemistry, biology, physics, and then some maths as well. It was a really interesting first year getting that eye-opening experience for all three of the sciences. And I found in first year that I really actually didn't like biology, considering I spent so much time at it in the leaving cert. I didn't really like it all that much. And I found this newfound love for chemistry, and that's where I decided to go down. So in any general science course or any general entry course at all, you'll always do a large breadth of subjects in your first year, and then you'll specialize in your second year or your third year. So no matter what college you go to, you'll always do general entry, a lot of subjects in the first year, and then second year you get to specialize. And I decided to specialize in chemical and pharmaceutical sciences, so really chemistry focused, which was a big change from my almost failing chemistry in the leaving cert. I ended up getting a degree in chemistry, but I did chemical pharmaceutical sciences for the next 3 years then, and loved it. Really, really interesting, really challenging at times. I definitely had my fair share of challenges, but I got to study drug design, medicinal chemistry, biosynthesis, so how we get drugs from nature, the history of drug design, etc. Lots of really interesting topics. And then for my final year thesis, I got to study computational chemistry. So computational chemistry is when we use quantum mechanics to predict how chemicals are going to interact with each other. And specifically for me, it was how quantum mechanics can predict the structure and stability of solvates. So when you get a tablet, whether it's a paracetamol or whatever, it's a drug in its crystallized form. It's an active ingredient in its crystallized form, and it has lots of other additives and stuff in it. But to get that active ingredient, we generally go through a manufacturing process to create that active ingredient. And a lot of the time, that manufacturing process can include what are called solvents, and they're things that we use to basically melt things in. Water is a solvent. If you put hot sugar in hot water, the water will make the sugar disappear, and it's acted as a solvent. So a lot of the time in the manufacturing process, when these active ingredients are turning into their crystal form, their solid form, they can include the solvents in their actual structure. And this is, less than ideal for making a drug, but we need to figure out the best way, or the most stable form of these solvates. So instead of making, hundreds of thousands of different types of combinations of chemicals, we can use quantum mechanics to predict every single variation of their crystallization. And that's what my project was on. So I wrote a piece of code. So in a chemistry course, had to learn how to write code, wrote a piece of code that effectively I was able to give it a list of chemicals, and it went through it, and it combined them all in lots of different formats, and it gave me out results for which were the most stable. So that was my final year thesis, a really interesting project. And I got a bit technical there, so apologies, but it was a really interesting project, really interesting to work on. And I think it was my 12th or 13th choice for project. So definitely not what I had originally intended to do, but really, really glad of the opportunity to work on it. So when I left college, I got a job with Abbott in the professional development program. So it's a 3-year program, 3 different rotations in 3 different locations and jobs. So lots of variation. In my first year, I was in the vascular side of the business. So in Abbott Clonmel, it's Abbott Vascular in Clonmel, I was a project engineer working in the vessel closure department. So if someone gets a stent, which I'm not sure if anyone listening knows someone who has gotten a stent. A stent is effectively a small little metal cage that helps open up your blood vessels. That little metal cage is inserted all the way up from your veins, usually your femoral artery in your leg, or a vein in your arm, and it travels all the way up to your heart on a little wire, and gets put to where it needs to be, and then expanded by a little balloon, and then your cage is where it needs to be. It opens up your blood vessels, and your blood can flow correctly. When you take that wire out, you leave a little hole in a fairly important artery, especially if it's your femoral artery in your leg. So previously, when you had a stent in, you had to sit in a bed for 24 hours with a sandbag on your leg to prevent your leg from bleeding. Or a nurse would have to come and they'd have to physically hold your leg to stop it bleeding. This was obviously, not ideal. It's not exactly the most efficient way to do things. So some very clever individual made a device that can actually insert a suture or a little stitch exactly onto the vein. And depending on the size of the hole, you can insert 2 or 3 of them, but it effectively is a needle that goes into the leg, and you clip it on, and it closes that hole, and you can walk out of hospital an hour later. So instead of 24 hours after your surgery, an hour after your surgery, you're walking out of hospital, which is a huge advantage for many people's lives. There's so much less risk from not staying in hospital, as we're all acutely aware now of the demand on hospitals and hospital space. It's a huge benefit for hospitals not to have people there for 24 hours when they don't need to be there. So now they can just be there for an hour and they can walk out afterwards. Um, was a really, really, really interesting year. So my role there was a project engineer working on equipment projects and EHS projects. So a far cry from chemistry again. Not exactly. I used zero knowledge of my degree in my role in Abbott and Clonmel, which was really interesting learning experience to have to just start from scratch again. But that's one of the things about STEM. It's not about what you've learned; it's about how you've learned to think. That problem solving skills that you get to develop in a STEM career is really what stands to you. So it was a really, really interesting year. Got to have some really, really good experiences, do some really good work with some really interesting people, and then finish that role in July and move to Abbott Nutrition in Coote Hill, where I am the lab projects manager, or the QC projects manager. So we cover 3 labs: the analytical lab, the micro lab, the IQA labs. And we largely just bring in new equipment and test methods, and any other quality projects that are needed from the site. So the nutrition site is a baby food manufacturing site, or infant formula manufacturing site. And if we obviously need to test, the ingredients that we put in and the product that we make out. So they're all tested in the analytical labs and the microbiology labs. And we need equipment to be able to do those tests, and we need to prove that equipment works. So that's what me and my team do. We bring in equipment, we prove it works, we show it works by running experiments on it, and then we have full confidence that that machine will work and will give us correct and accurate results, and we can then release product safely to the market. And next year, in July, hopefully, I will be going, who knows, I'll be going anywhere in the world to work for Abbott in operational excellence role. So my options this year are anywhere from California to Singapore and pretty much everywhere in between. I'll be working in an OPEX role, as I said. So operational excellence is, how do we make our process more efficient? How do we make our processes more efficient? How do we produce more? How do we produce more for less? And that's what really OPEX does. So I'll be anywhere in the world doing that, which is a really great experience at 24 years of age, to be supervising a team, but also, looking out to the world and saying, where will I work next, is a really, really great experience to have. So an average day, I'd always say that there's no such thing as an average day in my role, specifically in a projects role, but really in any role in STEM, there is no such thing as an average day. At 9 o'clock, I could be looking at microbiology methods to use different media in Petri dishes, and at 10 o'clock, I could be looking at, a new analytical piece of equipment to test for total solids and powder. It's really a lot of variation, and I'd also be involved with project management for the whole site. So because my team is the projects team, we contribute to the project demand on site, and we'd be involved in projects and project management for the whole site. I have presentation to leadership fairly often, so I'll present the updates to projects that we're working on, that the team is working on, to the senior leadership on the site, give status updates on that, on budgets, etc. But also as a people leader, you have to be a problem solver, and that was something that I had to learn quite quickly, was that, not all the problems that you're going to come across in a career in STEM are STEM focused or are STEM problems. A lot of them can be people problems. Someday someone could come to me with a problem on, they're having an interpersonal issue, or they're having a bad day, and they need some help, they need some advice, they need someone to talk to, and that's something that as a people leader, I wasn't exactly expecting, but it's something that was really valuable for me in terms of learnings. Really, really grateful to be in the position where I can, support people and help them perform their best. And in terms of skills needed for an average day, you really just need to be open-minded. You don't need to be the smartest person in the room. You don't need to know everything. I always say that there's the most successful people are surrounded by smarter people. You really just need to know who to ask the questions to. You need to have those interpersonal skills to be able to talk to someone and say, listen, I don't know what's going on here. Can you help me out? Can you give me some advice? Can you support me there? So why choose STEM? This was a question that I asked myself fairly kind of when I saw the slide. I asked myself, why would I choose STEM? And I kind of got involved in, my reasonings for choosing STEM. But I decided to ask other people then because, my opinion isn't as valid as like if I got a whole breadth of opinions from a load of people, and I got some really interesting answers back. So I've put them in here. Natalia Banasic, the microbiologist for the site in Coote Hill, said it's curiosity for her. It's she's always wondered how things work. So STEM was a chance to explore that and to work in that, and to use that curiosity. Emer Donoghue, one of the project techs on my team, said it was job diversity. So having a degree in STEM means you can work in a whole variety of roles. You don't have to just work in where what your degree is in, which is something that I've definitely learned. Having a degree in chemistry and working as an engineer last year and a project manager this year, it's a huge breadth of jobs that you can actually do. Carol Hooley, the engineering manager in Clonmel, said it was for her, it was getting hands-on with real life problems using creativity, innovation, and logic. So really being able to get into the nitty gritty and working with not just your STEM skills, but your creativity skills. So, being able to think outside the box and but also use logic as well at the same time to solve problems. And then Tom Brett, one of the analysts in Coote Hill, said you can't trust your eyes, but you can trust the science, which I really like. Science will always give you facts and figures. It'll always give you the correct answer. So while something might not look as it seems, science will always tell you whether or not it is. And then Darren Gaffney, the site director, gave me a really good piece of advice, and he said that STEM is all around us. And he gave me a piece, or spoke to me about the impact of STEM, I suppose, on everything we do. Whether it's the farmer in a field who's figuring out the most effective way to till his field, and using drones to increase crop yield, to the automated machinery that he uses to harvest that yield, to the secondary producer, so the manufacturer taking that yield that the farmer has produced most efficiently, and then figuring out the most efficient ways to turn that into a product in not just efficient ways but safe and high quality ways, to the transport company who are warehousing this product that the secondary producer has made. So the temperature controlled trucks, temperature monitoring on those trucks, to the temperature controlled warehouse and the software that uses FIFO, first in first out, to make sure that no product is getting wasted in the warehouse, to getting it to the supermarket and to the shop, and to tracking in the shop of what sells well to who. So your loyalty card in the shop is just a track of what you're buying, what you're selling, what can they sell you, what type of person buys what type of product. There's software there that analyzes that, and that's all STEM. So the next time you go to buy a box of cereal or whatever it is, there's a whole plethora of people in STEM in the background there that are working to give you that product. And STEM, for me, I think it is just to the core of that. It's a chance to make a difference. It's a chance to use my skills that I've developed over time, and use my efforts to make a difference. When I was in first year or second year in college, I kind of said to myself that, what, if I can improve one person's life throughout my work, throughout my life, then that's a fulfilled career for me. A year in Clonmel, I contributed to the production of more than 700,000 life-changing medical devices. So it's definitely an opportunity for me anyway, was to have a fulfilled career and to really use the skills that I've learned to improve people's lives. And then on top of that, there's a huge amount of information about like jobs available to you with a career in STEM. STEM isn't about what you've learned; it's about how you learn to think. When I was at careers fairs in final year, it wasn't really about it wasn't just science companies or pharmaceutical companies hiring scientists. There were financial companies hiring scientists. I know my dad worked in a company that uh, hired someone. He was in finance for years, and one of his colleagues did the same degree as me in college. It's not, you don't have to do what you've studied in college if you do STEM. STEM is really an opportunity to do, as Emer said, it's job diversity. You can do whatever you like. You can really, it opens a lot of doors for you, and that's something that I'd always say is keep your doors open, keep your options open. You're at an early stage in your life and your career now. Don't close doors in anything. Like, as I found, I thought chemistry was terrible, boring, horrible, and then I found out, you know what, actually I really enjoyed it. So definitely keep your doors open, keep your options open, and a career in an education in STEM doesn't mean a career in STEM, but a career in STEM is something that, for me anyway, is very fulfilling and really allows me to be proud of my work. So thank you for listening. That's all I have today. If you have any questions, let me know.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ciaran. And I think we all got a lot from that presentation. We have a few questions here, and I suppose to start off the questions, and the first one here: what is your favorite part of your role?
Um, the challenge every day of something new. There's always new problems, new challenges. There's new things that you have to come across. Like you're never going to walk in and expect what's going to come through the door that day. There's a lot of variation. It's not boring, I'll tell you that much. Like it's not boring. It really is. And science interests me, so it's a great opportunity for me to be able to look at new equipment. And if I get to spend $500,000 on a piece of equipment that I get to now install and play with and figure out, it's not the worst thing either.
Definitely. No, and I suppose an experience and exposure to cutting edge technology definitely is exciting.
Absolutely, yeah. Like it's the best of the best that we can purchase in. We're in a lucky position in that sense, so I can get to play with all the coolest toys.
Definitely. If you could give any advice to your leaving cert self, what would you say?
Don't beat yourself up too much about the choices you make. All of our choices are half chance. There's nothing that I would do differently. You really just have to keep your options open. Don't get too frustrated if it doesn't work out for you. You're going to fail time and time again. I almost failed chemistry in the Leaving Cert, then got a degree in chemistry, repeated a year in chemistry when I failed once, and failure isn't something that failure is where you get your best learnings. You really learn when you fail. Succeeding is great, but you need to be able to learn to fail and learn to stop and assess what went wrong and how do I learn from that and how do I improve and how can I not fail again. So definitely don't be afraid of failure. Keep your options open and don't beat yourself up too much.
Yeah, and I think that is important to keep your options open, especially coming out of secondary school. You talked briefly about your college experience in your presentation. What was your favorite part of college?
In terms of the actual course, I think I loved the labs. But as college as a whole, college is an experience. It's definitely just the people. Like, you get to make friends for life in college. You get to meet a lot of like-minded people. There's oftentimes in school you can be the only one with an interest in something, but when you go to college you realize that there's a whole plethora of people out there that are interested in it too. um it's a really good opportunity to not just develop your professional skills and your education skills, but your personal skills as well, and to really kind of find yourself as a person, which does impact you as a professional. When you look for a career, they're hiring you as a person. They're not hiring your brain or your ability to do ABC. They're hiring you as a person because they want you to be part of their team.
Yeah. And I suppose in college, did you ever engage in anything outside of your course to suppose fill out yourself as a person?
Yeah, so ultimate frisbee was the big one that I touched on early on. I played that in college, so that was a really great opportunity. Made some really good friends in ultimate frisbee that I'm still in touch with. Got to travel around Europe, playing ultimate frisbee, which is pretty cool. Like it's a fun experience. But also got to challenge myself in the sport and push myself in terms of outside of education. Got to push myself and really kind of develop my work ethic outside of an education as well. So definitely would recommend it.
Now, obviously, for yourself, you've got quite a lot about your degree in STEM. We have a question here in the chat. Is a degree in STEM worth it? And I suppose your presentation earlier would imply so, but could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I do think I think a degree in STEM is definitely worth it. Like it's not exactly STEM doesn't mean you're going to work in STEM. A degree in STEM teaches you how to solve problems, how to learn, how to think differently, how to think outside the box. A degree in STEM isn't about, I'm definitely going to be working in STEM. I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be doing this. A degree in STEM is I can do whatever I want after this because I have the ability to think outside the box, to problem solve actively. I would highly recommend anyone try STEM at least. Like, I know people who went into first year in general science and DCU, and they transferred over to engineering halfway through first year, or transferred over to nursing halfway through first year. There's more than one way into any degree, into any course, into any path of life. You know, you can't, like, if you go and do a degree in STEM and in 10 years you have a job in STEM and you're working away and you go, "Do you know what, I actually don't like this all that much," you can turn around and you can go back and start again, and you can go back to college and try again and develop your skills in a different way. But that STEM way of thinking will always stand to you. No matter what it is you go back and do, that ability to think critically will always stand to you in any role in life. That's, as I said, finance companies often hire physicists as their analysts. Um, there was an opportunity for me to become a trader on the financial markets with a degree in chemistry, which to me doesn't make sense, but it's because it's STEM. It's the way you think that you're learning. It's not about studying chemistries. I know everything about chemistry. I use very little chemistry in my day to day. What I do use is the way to solve problems critically. That's what a career in STEM really gives you.
And I suppose your college degree did, had the STEM aspect to it, but obviously you've ended up in a management position. Would you find them sort of skills are testing a completely different aspect of yourself?
Oh, 100%. There's no one teaches you how to be a manager, how to manage people in the way that you do. Like, it's very much about trust, about people trusting you, about you trusting them, and giving trust and getting trust. It's a whole different learning curve, and I'm lucky to be in a position where I can have that learning curve at this stage of my career. But it is a whole different learning curve for me. But huge respect for anyone who is in a management position after this year, because it is definitely a challenge. But it is definitely would recommend it to anyone to try it at least once. You learn a whole new set of skills when it comes to dealing with people, whether it's someone coming to you with a personal issue, with an interpersonal issue, whether they're having a fight with someone else or a union issue or whatever it is. No one teaches you how to deal with that, but your critical thinking skills will definitely come into play, but you still need to be a good person to deal with them as well. That definitely has an impact.
Yeah, and that is very interesting. I suppose to end up in a role like that, considering the skills you would have been developing in college. Something you talked about was struggling with chemistry at leaving cert level, and I know a lot of people do struggle, as chemistry is known as one of the more difficult leaving cert subjects. How did you find then, I suppose, overcoming the challenge of getting good at chemistry and even excelling at it in college?
Um, it was I suppose I always found that there was a few missing pieces in leaving cert chemistry. In terms of just there's a lot to cover. It's a big course, and in college you have the time, and you do have the time to cover the course in more detail, and that definitely helped. It really is just about time and about learning to solve the problems and to realize it does click. You know what I mean? It kind of clicked for me in first year in college. Chemistry really clicked, that you're actually thinking about the movement of atoms rather than thinking about it as learning off formulas and experiments. It's really thinking about the problems at its core, which is all it is moving electrons. So no, it was overcoming the challenge was definitely just about the information available for me and being able to access that information.
And that's an interesting point you bring up there. I suppose the difference between STEM at leaving cert level and then as you go into college and then eventually the workplace. Is chemistry alone in that, or were the other STEM subjects you took for leaving cert different as you progressed through your career?
In terms of which, sorry, Connor?
So like when you moved into college,
Mm.
was physics and such as different as chemistry was between leaving cert and college?
Yeah, there's well, so I didn't do physics in the leaving cert, so that was really interesting for me to start from scratch with physics, and to learn it kind of from a clean slate. Biology was not hugely different, but there was definitely a lot more detail, and it was a lot more. As with any college degree, it's more detailed than the leaving cert. By nature, it's going to be more detailed. I just found the detail in the chemistry more interesting than the detail in any of the others. So that was just the difference for me, personally. Anyway, physics was something that I definitely enjoyed studying in first year because I hadn't done it before. But chemistry was just the one that when the new information opened up in the college course, that's when I kind of realized that I actually really enjoyed it.
So I suppose for people that haven't done each of the Leaving Cert STEM subjects, you'd encourage them not to be apprehensive going into college like a general science degree where you're going to have to do physics and
Oh,
such.
absolutely not. There's there's going to be so many other people there who haven't done what you did. There's going to be people there who also didn't do what you didn't do. So you're not going to be on your own. And it's a general entry course. They know that there's people in the room who haven't done anything at all previously in the subject, and they tailor it to that. It's not like you're going in and you're expected to know everything. No one expects you to know everything ever. If anyone does expect you to know everything, they're just not a nice person.
Yeah, and just to build off that, we have a question here in the chat. Is a STEM course hard to do? Now, obviously, depends on your skills, but what would you say to that?
Any course is hard to do. Any course is going to be hard to do. Any course is going to be a challenge. Um, if you work hard at it and try your best at it, you've something to be proud of. Whether or not you fail or pass it, you've something to be proud of if you try your best with it and put the effort in. Any course is going to be a challenge. Any course is going to be difficult. A STEM course will be difficult as well, but I'd say no more difficult than any other subject. Challenges are challenges, and hard work is what overcomes challenges, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. And here in the chat as well, we have, what are the advantages and disadvantages of a STEM course? Now, I know you touched on a lot of these points earlier on in the presentation, but perhaps you can elaborate on again.
Advantages of a STEM course, as I said, ability to think critically, you develop that skill. You have lots of job diversity when you come out of college. You can do pretty much whatever you want. You get to make a difference if you do choose to go into STEM as a career. You get to make a difference in people's lives in terms of their health and their well-being. Disadvantages, it can be time-consuming at times. It can be challenging at times. There's a lot to learn. There's like disadvantages in my opinion are massively outweighed by the advantages because I loved the learning about chemistry and learning about science, but disadvantages definitely I could see them being, it's tough. It'd be tough if you don't have an interest in it to really put yourself to it and apply yourself to it, because you do have to apply yourself to it. You really do have to put the effort in.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's the same for every college course that's worth doing, I suppose. Another question, I suppose, on that, with the knowledge that you know now, and obviously now being into your career, is there anything you would do differently going back to your Leaving Cert self?
No. Again, as I said, all of our choices are half chance. No one really knows what they're doing. Everyone is just making the most of it. So make the most of what you can. Don't beat yourself up over your challenges, over your failures, over anything. Just do what you think is best for you at the moment in time that you're in. All of our choices are half chance. There's no way of knowing whether or not you're doing the right thing or the wrong thing, really. There's so many unexpected things that can happen. So try your best, follow your gut, follow your heart, and really, you'll come out on top.
Definitely. Just a question here we have in the chat. Who's your favorite scientist? Now, I know we do things like this to show STEM role models and career profiles to, I suppose, inspire people. Was there anyone like that for you that inspired you to pursue a career in STEM?
So I no one in my family is in STEM. My dad is in finance, as I said. My mom is a teacher. My granduncle is an artist. There's no one in my family who's in STEM, so I never had the direct role models in terms of STEM. My favorite scientist is a tricky one. I think Alfred Nobel is a really interesting scientist. He invented dynamite, I think it was, and his brother passed away, and they thought it was him who passed away, and the media thought it was him who passed away, and the news articles about him were father of death dies, or father of destruction dies, and he read them and was horrified at the fact that that was how he was perceived, because he had invented something that, while useful, was dangerous and used for a negative purpose. And he went on to create the Nobel Prize. And the Nobel Prize as we know it today was named after Alfred Nobel. And he decided to make a difference with the success that he had with his science and his adventures in science. Criticize them as you may, he turned around and turned it into something positive. So I definitely admire that. Maybe not for the science as much as for the way he handled his own self-reflection, I suppose.
Yeah, no, that's a very interesting person to pick. And I will encourage everyone now to put any questions you might have left in the chat, and we will be wrapping up soon. I'm conscious of time. But perhaps in case we don't get any more, one last question here. Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
I know, Connor, myself and yourself chatted about this earlier. I don't know. Simple as that. I don't know where I see myself, but I do see myself making a difference. Positively influencing people's lives. Whether it is within Ireland, within Abbott, within anything, whether it's within STEM or not within STEM, making a difference is where what I see myself doing. So I don't really know where I'll see myself, but I definitely see myself, doing the best that I can, trying to make a difference and making the effort.
Yeah, and that's a lovely positive note to end on. I think the positivity is definitely being picked up in the chat today. So again, I'd like to thank you, Ciaran. That was excellent. And thank you for all your great questions in the chat as well. I hope you all enjoyed today's discussion. And if you want to learn more about careers in science, visit our website at www.smartfutures.ie. There we have interviews with other STEM professionals discussing their careers and the journey they took to achieve it. There is also general information about other STEM careers so you can discover what is most suited to you. Also, check us out on social media. For more information on how to win a pair of Apple AirPods, visit our Instagram at SmartFuturesIreland. Follow the account and tag 2 of your friends under the most recent competition post to be entered. We'll be announcing the winner next week. If you're looking for more video content, stay here on our channel and check out last month's career talk with civil engineer Rahima Ahmed. For more on Ciaran's career, check our website. We'll be featuring an article on him in the coming week. So once again, a massive thank you to Ciaran and everyone who contributed questions during today's discussion. We'll be live again next month to celebrate Tech Week and discuss careers in technology with another industry professional. We hope that you will join us again. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thanks, guys.